Diane and Mark beamed as they welcomed their guests into their newly purchased suburban home. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air, mingling with the excited chatter of friends reuniting. "It's so good to see you all," Diane said, her eyes sparkling as she ushered everyone into the dining room. "We've been looking forward to this for weeks." The dinner was a delightful affair, filled with laughter and clinking of wine glasses. As the main course concluded, Diane stood up, smoothing her dress. "I'll just grab dessert," she said, flashing a smile at her husband. "Won't be a moment." The conversation continued, but as minutes ticked by, Mark's eyes kept darting to the kitchen door. Eventually, one of the guests, Emma, noticed his unease. "Is everything all right, Mark?" she asked, her brow furrowing. Mark forced a laugh. "Oh, you know, Diane, probably just fussing over the presentation." But as more time passed, an uncomfortable silence settled over the room. Finally, Mark excused himself and went to check on his wife. The guests exchanged worried glances as they heard him calling Diane's name, his voice growing more frantic with each repetition. When he returned, his face was ashen. She's not in the kitchen," he stammered, "or anywhere in the house." The group split up, searching every room, calling Diane's name. They found nothing, no sign of struggle, no open windows, no back door left ajar. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. As police sirens wailed in the distance, Emma noticed something odd. On the mantelpiece, where family photos had been displayed earlier in the evening, now stood a single frame. Inside was a photo of Diane, smiling directly at the camera, but something about her eyes seemed different, colder, more knowing. Emma blinked, and suddenly the photo was gone, replaced once again by the familiar family portraits. Days turned into weeks, then months. Despite extensive searches and investigations, Diane was never found. The case went cold, leaving behind a grieving husband and a community baffled by the inexplicable disappearance. Years later, long after Mark had moved away, Emma found herself driving through her old neighborhood. On impulse, she turned down the street where Mark and Diane had lived. The house stood there, looking much the same as it had that fateful night. As Emma slowed her car, she caught a glimpse of movement in an upstairs window. For a split second, she could have sworn she saw a familiar face. Diane's face, watching her from behind the curtain. But when she blinked and looked again, the window was empty. Emma drove away, her heart racing. She never mentioned the incident to anyone, always wondering if it had been a trick of the light or her imagination. But sometimes late at night, she found herself thinking about that dinner party and the woman who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions that would never be answered.